Hi guys, I'm Tracy. Thank you for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy the video and subscribe before you leave. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over my Hakuhodo face brushes. As you might have already known, Hakuhodo is offering free shipping for purchases $60 or more in the US and $80 or more internationally. And this is really the only kind of financial promotion they do all year. And if you don't order in November, you pay $9 for shipping for every order, regardless of price. So I do think if you are, looking to order, you should do it this month. And I put together a video of all of my face brushes in case you guys are looking for recommendations, and this was actually requested by some of you guys that watched my eye brush video, and I thought I had more, but I have 10 Hakuhodo face brushes. I really like their eye brushes. I would say Hakuhodo is my favorite eye brush brand, but I do really enjoy their face brushes, and when I'm putting an order in, I kind of feel compelled to put at least one face brush in there to make the order kind of worth it. That's how I reason with myself. But I'm going to go over the ones I have and let you guys know what I think of it. I'm going to insert some B-roll of me using these brushes. There are a few here that I've really rarely used, but I did try to use as many as I could to do this look today. So I hope this is helpful for you guys trying to figure out what brushes to put in your cart and buy. Okay, so we're going to start out with the G511. And this is a really important one to get a look at, in a video form, because I hope you can see how small it is. It looks to me much bigger online, and I was really surprised when I got it. It kind of reminds me size-wise, if you're familiar with the Sonogy Mini Cheek, it's kind of more that size range. It's made of squirrel and goat hair, and I really do like this mix of hair. It's kind of, it's got the airiness of a squirrel brush, but it has the pickup of a goat hair brush. But I've used it for so many things, and I don't really like this brush. I, of course, try to make use of it, and the B-roll, I'm using it to powder the under eyes, and I do think, looking at how it performed with bronzer, it's just too small for bronzer. Highlighter, it's okay, it's nothing special, but I like the shape for powdering the under eyes and powdering areas like this that are kind of hard to get to because of the size. But I will talk about a brush in a few minutes that is very similar to this that I recommend over this one. I wouldn't say, buying this as a gift or anything. It's a very specific brush and a little bit difficult to figure out, at least in my opinion. So that's the G511. And the next one I'm going to talk about is the same hair type, is the B5521, and it looks like this. It's their smaller tapered face brush, and I just got this literally like my last shipment like a week ago, so I have not really figured out the best use for this brush. I've used it to powder the under eyes, and it does okay. I would say compared to some of the other brushes, it applies powder kind of heavily. So if you're looking to really get the powder on, in areas that you really need to set, or if you have oily skin and you're really trying to kind of lock your foundation and concealer in, I do think this is really good. I've also used it because it's pretty dense. I've used it to kind of like clean up like my blush and bronzer, and it seems to do an okay job with that. And I think this shape, it makes it very useful for doing like precision powder work. So like, in this area, I always try to like get, a little bit of bronzer and blush off right here. And if you want to powder areas like this, if you have like creases here, this is really good because of the shape. I'm not going to highly recommend this yet because it's just too new to me. But so far I am enjoying it, and so that's the B5521. And then I'm going to talk about the larger size of the first one I mentioned. That's the B512, and it looks like this. And this is the perfect size for me for bronzer. And this is the shape or the size I was hoping the G511 was, but as you can see here, I'll show you side by side, there's a very significant size difference. And this one, I just feel like it's a little bit more expensive, yes, but you get so much more brush. It's just like, I mean, I'm really surprised at how much bigger this one is. And the shape is the same, but well, just much bigger. And I do feel like this size is very useful, and the shape is really good for bronzer. So if you can see how this size, it works really good for here, here, and here. If you want to like use bronzer to kind of contour, which is what I do, and here. So I do really like this one, and for a gift, I would say of the three I've mentioned, this one is the best. That's the B512. Okay, now we're going to talk about one of my first Hakuhodo brushes, and to be honest, I don't use it so much anymore. That's the J210. Now this is meant to do powder blush, but I've only used it for cream products. And in the B-roll, I'm going to be using it to blend out my liquid contour, and it does a great job at that. When I bought this, it was over a year ago, there weren't a lot of brushes meant for cream and liquid products yet. Now with the Sonic G Fusion series and a lot of other brands coming out with brushes that are more appropriate for creams and liquids, this is kind of become a little outdated, I think, and I'll explain why. It's really good for, you know, cream products because of the density. Now, you might look at it and say it doesn't look that dense, and it's because this one shed a lot on me. And another reason I don't use it too much is because I think I might have just washed it way too much, and it's just not meant to be washed that often. So I am not going to recommend this, because you can find a brush for cream and liquids that's this size in, I would say, like the Sonic G Classic Base. If you're looking for a cream contour, a cream bronzer, a cream blush brush, I would say this one is a lot better. This one has not shed on me yet. And you know, this one, it is meant for powders. But if you're going to use this for powders, it's going to put on a very, very strong application. So if that's what you're looking for, I would say get this one. But it is a pretty dense brush. The hairs are pretty short, and so it's gonna really like lay that product on. It would be good to also, if you are like trying to mix, like if you think you have like a little bit too much blush, or you know, the blush and the bronzer, you want to kind of mix it together, you can use this to kind of like move product around. But I'm not using this so much for creams and liquids anymore, because I have better brushes for that. Okay, now we're going to go to one of my all-time favorite brushes, and that is the B110. And the last one, I don't know if I told you guys, it's completely round. The J210 is round. Anyhow, this one is, I really highly recommend this for everyone that wears blush and bronzer, because it's just like the perfect density. It's not light, it's not sparse, it's not dense, it's not super long, it's not a short-haired brush, and the size just makes it perfect for getting into these areas. And I usually use this in a stamping motion for some reason, because these hairs do kind of pick up pretty well. So if you do this, it does kind of lift your base makeup or whatever you have on. So with this one in particular, I do feel like patting is better with this brush, and I really, really like this one, and I highly, highly recommend the B110, or it's also the J210. And they do, Hakuhodo said this is their best-selling blush brush that they have. One of them is the G5538, and it looks like this. I've talked about this a lot. I really like this for pigmented blushes because it's so soft and airy. Wayne Goss does one that's very similar. He calls it the number 14. And if you're someone that has been trying to get the Sonia G Soft Cheek Brush, which looks like this, I would say it's not a dupe. It's not that similar, but the results of your blush are. So it really just lightly dusts the blush on, and I used it with the Dior Rosy Glow, or the Rosy Blush, because that one is pretty strong for me, and I feel like this one just puts on like the perfect amount without going overboard, and it's really soft. It's a very very versatile brush because you can also use it to powder, and you can also use it to lightly bronze and lightly powder really quickly. So you can go like this. So that's the G5538. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Kebo brush that I have. So Hakuhodo has a whole line of these brushes in all different types of hairs, sizes, and they're all this shape, this kind of flat angled brush, but angled in a unique way in that it's very, you know, this part is very straight as opposed to some other ones that are more rounded like this. And the I know a lot of people really like these. This is the J6050, and in the B-roll I'm using it for highlighter because it provides the lightest application of powder. So if you have something that you just want to very lightly get on your cheeks or, you know, your forehead or something, this brush will be really good. I just don't use it that much, and it's usually in storage, so I'm not going to highly recommend it. But this particular one is not terribly expensive, and you get these long hairs, and you get a very light brush. It's very sparse, very flexible, kind of like an angled version of this, but I like this one better. And but I think, you know, if you're curious about this shape brush, this one is a good one to go with because it's just kind of like in the middle. It's not super long. They have ones that are like 50 millimeters long. I believe this is like 35, and it's kind of like in between. So if you want to try this type of brush, I think this one would be a good one to start out with. Okay, now I'm going to talk about my two Yachty brushes, and these are both medium, so they come in small, medium, and large. This was one of my first Hakuhodo brushes, and I'll be honest, I got it just because I thought it was cute. You know, it comes in this, it's just very like old-fashioned Japanese. If you guys don't know, I'm Japanese, and it just reminds me of like my childhood, and I don't know, it's just very it's just kind of like a reminiscent brush of things that I've seen, you know, when I was a younger person. And I do like having it. Something that I've noticed with this one, it sheds a lot. I think it's bundled a little differently because it does look different. Like the ferrule is this wrapped cane, and I do feel like it's not bundled as well as their other brushes. I did use this a lot for blush, but not so much anymore. And I also have the medium tapered one, which I also don't use, but I would say if you had to choose between the two, I like the domed one better just because I like this shape. If you have to do like blush, or I just like this shape better for that. But I don't know, there's just something about this. I'm just not really feeling this brush. So I'm not going to recommend really either of the Yachty brushes. I think you could get something that's a little bit more durable, that has a classic handle. Okay, and then my last brush, this is my very first Hakuhodo brush, and I'm not going to recommend this one. But the thing about this brush that I was really surprised at, and things that you cannot see online, it's a very sparsely packed brush. So it's gonna really very lightly apply powders. and I've used it for bronzer. If I have a very pigmented bronzer, I'll reach for this, but for the most part, this just doesn't have enough pickup for me. It just very, very lightly will pick up powder, and it will very lightly apply it, and it's a little bit bigger than what I prefer, but I think a lot of people really, I know a lot of people really like this brush. I've heard people say they love it for finishing powder, for bronzer, for blush. I know there's a Reddit about this brush, and some people have like 3 or 4. It's just not something that I've really gravitated towards yet, and I don't think I will. But it's a beautiful brush, and I love that, you know, for the price you get this really fluffy brush. And what really kind of like attracted me to Fude in general is that this brush changed so much after I washed it. When I got it, it was just this small flat blush brush, and I was like, oh, is this what they all are like? I was kind of disappointed, and then I washed it and it fluffed up, and it's just I just love that about brushes, like seeing them change, and that's something that you will definitely see if you get this brush. So that's the K022. So that is my entire collection of Hakuhodo face brushes. I would say if you are looking to get a brush as a gift for someone, I do think these two, the B512 and the B110, I do think these are the most universally useful brushes. And they are not this one. This one is one of my top 3 face brushes of all time. So highly, highly recommend this one. That's really all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.